this is where DSA just consistently fucking fails, is that the people get into power and then they completely forget about DSA. Like, in many ways, DSA has failed to actualize a lot of these politics that they maybe claim to uphold. Now, I do want to move to Within Our Lifetime, which is a Palestinian-led organization that it's leading a lot of the protests in New York City right now. Okay, so like mass protests are going on in New York City. A lot of them are organized from Within Our Lifetime. I'm sure that Within Our Lifetime works with a lot of other orgs to, pool their resources. So they're not fully responsible for every single action, clearly, but they're involved in a lot of them, They posted this event: Flood the Bronx for Gaza, protest AOC's campaign rally, endorsing Biden is endorsing genocide. The Bronx stands with Palestine. And so they said, we're going to have a protest at this rally that AOC and Bernie are going to be at in the Bronx. Okay, so this is a get out the vote rally for Jamaal Bowman, who has an election on Tuesday. He was doing some absolute fuck shit in his early, years as a congressperson. He voted for the Iron Dome funding. He went on a all expenses paid trip and met with Israeli leaders. Like, he was doing some fuck shit about Israel. I genuinely do believe he's not 100% there on every single thing, but he's there. He's there enough for me, and I think he's shifted. I think he's changed, and I think he still would be a great person to have in Congress. If I was in his district, I would vote for Jamaal Bowman. I think losing him as a voice in American politics is a loss. However, I don't think that means we shouldn't protest him. I don't think there's anybody that is immune from protest and immune from being called out. I think we should be protesting everybody. Like, I didn't understand the anger, and boy, let me tell you, there was a lot of fucking anger. Okay, you might have an unhealthy affinity towards protesting. Maybe I do, but still, what good does protesting do? It lets them know that there's a big section of their base that is not okay with how they're operating, that they need to change on these specific issues. It does a lot more good than fucking endorsing them without asking for anything in exchange. Let me tell you that. Okay? Dude, if you're endorsing Biden in the middle of a genocide, if you're going out and actively going on the campaign trail with Biden right now, I think you deserve to be called out. And so we actually have this article, which I haven't read yet, is by Ahmed Hussein. So let's read this article. It's about this whole thing. It's titled, Against Cowardice, Palestine Charts the Path for DSA. AOC quickly became the darling of the left as the standard bearer of its young electoral project. DSA would be her base, laying the groundwork for an eventual, long-forecasted presidential run.
Girl, baby girl.
There she is.
Play. We are going to move.
There she is. Thank you, Basil, for this sub. 6 years and 2 re-elections later, AOC finds herself out of step with the socialists who catapulted her to fame. She has been hounded by pro-Palestinian activists through her district for her initial reluctance to call Israel's campaign of mass murder in Gaza, 50,000 dead in 8 months, what it is, a genocide. Palestinian organizations picket the rallies to protest her cowardice. They criticize her for statements supporting the Iron Dome and her vote for House Resolution 888, which advances a deadly narrative conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. At the same time, DSA also finds itself with less wind in its sails. While many of its chapters have shown up in rallies, marches, campaigns, and direct actions for Palestine across the U.S., the national DSA body faces dwindling membership as it's criticized by different Palestinian solidarity organizations and activists who do not accept a soft line on Palestine. Members of DSA must wrestle with the fact that our national body has flinched on the question of Palestine at every opportunity over the past 3 years, and we have suffered for it. Palestine is central to our political crisis. This is true. You actually cannot build socialism while ignoring the question of Palestine. The road to socialism will not go through Palestine. It will not be paved with Palestinian bodies. It's never going to work. DSA National's failure to de-endorse Representative Bowman for his diplomatic visits to Israel and votes in favor of funding the Iron Dome opened up the first tear at the seams of DSA's electoral project. As we bled many of our most active organizers, particularly those from Arab and Muslim backgrounds, due to our national body's unwillingness to hold the line on Palestine. These decisions to not de-endorse Bowman and to de-charter our BDS working group preceded two of the biggest weekly membership losses in DSA's history. I think this is the thing that just, it really frustrates me to read people online who are having this conversation right now, saying things like, oh, like without our, within our lifetime, they're a fringe group. What are their accomplishments? And like this kind of rhetoric comes out of DSA constantly. They threw it at LA organizers that I organize with very closely. And they also will call you feds. They'll say you're actually CIA. Instead of building inroads and building like trust between these groups, they actually take the opposite approach. They shit on those organizers and they peace police. Yeah, exactly. I want there to be a national party that is leading the working class to political liberation in this country. But it's going to take work, and it's going to take very, very particular stances. And like, in my opinion, they have to figure out what their relationship is with electoral politics. It's a really, really big problem where DSA has a really strong base of activists, of young people who are willing to do work to engage in politics. But what does that mean? Traditionally, what it means is that they will find a candidate who is running, who in a survey, while they're seeking endorsement, will agree with most of or all of DSA's platform. And then that movement, the DSA's movement, the boots on the ground, will go forward and phone bank for them, will canvas for them, they'll generate buzz for them, they'll use their socials. Like it really, really makes a big difference in these races. Now, what happens after that? This is where DSA just consistently fucking fails. They consistently fucking fail. Is that the people get into power and then they completely forget about DSA. They completely forget about that fucking, questionnaire that they filled out whenever they got the endorsement, and they do fuck shit. Like they, approve the Iron Dome funding. They approve city budgets with increased police budgets. When asked to make a principled and hard choice that they may have to actually explain, they choose the coward's way out, and they choose to maintain and to reinforce the fucking, in this case, it's the genocide in Israel. In many other cases, it's the police state that we are living in America. Like, in many ways, DSA has failed to actualize a lot of these politics that they maybe claim to uphold. Jamaal Bowman is only the latest example of this. How would you like to see them hold candidates accountable? A great way would be don't re-endorse. Run somebody against these fucking people. A better way would be, if you want this endorsement, it comes with the responsibility that at least, monthly or quarterly even, the candidate has to meet with the membership of DSA. People should be de-endorsed. People should be protested. Like, this is how it works. If they do shit that is outside of DSA's political goals, they should be protested. A protest does not harm you. And to DSA as a whole, and I think AOC in particular, I think they're making this calculation of, do we use our position as an activist, or do we instead turn to our position as a politician and as an individual who is working in a career in this, right? If you truly believe that this is a genocide, AOC, and I know that she has said that it's a genocide lately, why are you campaigning for the person almost most responsible? The calculus for DSA and the left, once the core of AOC's base, has also changed. Over the past 6 years, the movement for Palestinian liberation has taken many strides into the mainstream of U.S. politics and now dominates a large segment of the left. Where Palestine Solidarity rally attendance once averaged in the dozens, our rallies now swell into the millions across multiple cities in the U.S. As the movement for Palestinian solidarity ascends, AOC declines. We must examine the material conditions and circumstances before we reach for yesterday's tools. AOC and DSA is a love story gone awry, and we must end relationships that no longer serve our ability to build power for the working class. I think AOC does have a very, very important role and has the potential to be a very, very good figure within the left in America. I do think they need to like re-examine the relationship and figure out ways that she can be held accountable, because currently I don't think she gives a fuck what DSA thinks. I don't think she cares about what DSA as an organization thinks. I don't think she cares about what Palestinian people think about her. Like I think something along the line was broken. And if it can't be repaired, then the relationship should end, you know? Isn't it political heartbreak? Yes. And I mean, we watched a great video a few months ago about that and how like this kind of shit ruins activists. Like this removes people from the struggle. You understand? It's not even hypothetical. People get really involved in like a race. When they see it result in nothing, it breaks their heart and they don't want to be a part of it anymore. It's really toxic for the whole movement. And it's something that people who are leaders in politics especially have a huge responsibility. It's something that needs to be acknowledged. You represent everybody who got involved in the movement to be here. And part of that is being accountable to that movement, not the other way around. DSA is not accountable to Jamaal Bowman. DSA is not accountable to AOC. DSA is not accountable to Bernie Sanders. They should be accountable to us. And I feel like so often DSA moves their politics to match their politicians' politics. That relationship needs to flip on its head. If every time Bernie said Israel has a right to defend itself, if AOC asked, does Palestine? Like that would make a difference. AOC was elected because of DSA. The decision to not de-endorse Bowman and to de-charter our BDS working group preceded two of the biggest weekly membership losses in DSA history. I think DSA is losing power by not holding their politicians accountable. In my opinion, as somebody who is like very much on the ground, that should be a fucking problem. You can't look at mass movements and say they don't matter. They don't matter. Mass movements are everything. That is politics. If you're a socialist, that is where power comes from. Power comes from the ground. It comes from the streets. Those ideas that they're talking about up there, they came from the fucking streets. We got to reframe the whole thinking around electoralism. In many ways, it should be transactional. You want to come for us for an endorsement? And you want to come for us like for phone bankers and for, you know, all of the things in an endorsement would afford you, you need to give us something in return. You have to give us good votes. You have to be on the stand every time you are advocating for workers' rights. Like you have to be doing shit. And if you're not, then the relationship should be over. Power should come from below, not above. And I think DSA thinks power is to them is proximity to power in the American political class. How close can they get to the White House? How close can they get to the halls of the congressional building? That's not fucking power. And if we're like socialists, we have to understand that power comes from the workers. And if we're not building power from the workers, and that doesn't like organically result in a candidate that we can run to represent that movement that comes from the workers, then it don't fucking matter, because they have no accountability. They're just going to get in there and be swayed by the exact same forces that exist in those spaces that makes every single other piece of shit in those halls the way that they are. You're supposed to be the largest left organization. Why the fuck are you shitting on people who are actively like getting thousands of people out into the streets in almost every American city every fucking weekend? Like, build coalitions, not enemies. To mistake these for spontaneous, disconnected moments of momentary public attention is to signal one's detachment from the streets. Oh! And this is a whole other thing too, is that I hate it. I hate it when people do this on Twitter, and I'm guilty of it, okay? I'm guilty of it too. I do it too. I drop it on people too. But like, I've just seen so many people like, be like, oh yeah, like, well, what are you doing, you know? And it's true, man. Some of these people, like, especially with regards to this within our lifetimes protest, it's like, bro, you're talking about this protest like it's gonna ruin Jamaal Bowman's chances of re-election. And to me, all I hear is that you've never been to a fucking protest. Like, you've never done it. Like, like, are you guys going? Were you at an encampment? Are any of these motherfuckers that are I got pulled up for being assholes? Are any of y'all going to? Did you step foot in an encampment? Are you in touch with people on the ground anywhere? Like, are you? These are important questions. If I'm involved in a movement, I want it to be led by people who are affected personally, you know? We must recognize our foremost battle is not against discomfort or unpopularity, but against despair. Bro, is this guy me? Did I write this in my fucking sleep? If DSA wasn't so beholden to people to politicians, if they didn't view their power as only coming through electoralism, they could have a relationship with their politicians that come to them for endorsement, that they are scared of DSA. That's a good thing. These politicians should be scared of us. You gotta remember, like, they are beholden to us. They should be scared of us, and that requires DSA having some method to hold people accountable. And whether it's picketing outside of their fucking offices, whether it's protesting them at rallies that they're throwing, the DSA should not be a party that is defined by the people it gets elected. It should be defined by the policies and the politics that its membership votes for. Something flipped where the membership will vote for things like abolition. DSA members have routinely voted to be in support and to be an abolitionist organization. Yet, they continue to elect city councilors who increase police budgets. This is a consistent thing. Like Brandon Johnson in Chicago, who the mayor of Chicago, and when he was running, said, I will not reduce the Chicago police budget by a single cent. That's not okay. This is a great topic and article. Thanks for covering it. AOC, Bowman, and DSA have been good for the left, but they are becoming way too opportunistic, in my opinion. And I think leftists complaining about purity spirals are missing the point. 100% missing the point. And like, I'm sorry, but if you're talking about purity spirals in regards to Palestine, I think you are absolutely cooked. Like, your whole project is fucked. And I don't blame Palestinians who are like, what the fuck why do we even have to advocate for this? Why do we even have to have these conversations? Let it be known to every so-called progressive that failing Palestine carries a political cost, and we will exact that cost on every coward. This is activism, guys. I don't know what to tell you, man. Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. That is how you get power, and that's how you keep power.
Several days later.
Dude, I just saw live results NBC. They're already calling it. They're already saying that Latimer wins. I'm not saying let's go. Yeah, what the fuck is that? Dude, the Latimer is a fucking cretin, dude. This guy's a racist piece of shit. I wish Bowman would have won. I don't think anyone is immune from being protested. I think you should be holding all of your elected officials accountable, especially the ones that are supposed to be closest to your ideologies. It's like really surprising how many people who are like on the left, quote unquote, were sounding exactly like Hillary supporters or fucking Biden supporters now. And like, just like any criticism of the candidate equals, oh, you want the opponent to win. You must be AIPAC. It's like, what? Huh? We don't even have to wait for Trump, bro. Like, things are getting worse for us right now. Yeah, fascism is coming under Joe Biden, brother. Under Democratic mayors. I also do think the progressives and the left like AOC, like, you know, Jamaal Bowman, I don't think they should be fucking endorsing and campaigning for Joe Biden. Like, if you have any power in that situation, you should be using it to pressure Joe Biden to stop sending weapons immediately. Biden is entirely unwilling to do anything that is in contrast to the Israeli government's desires. I just think it's not 2016 anymore, man. Politics change. We're in a very different moment. People are not feeling hopeful. This is low-key the issue I have with a lot of the DSA and a lot of the people who are like hyper focused on electoralism, is that like Bernie was a one-time thing. He's not ever going to be relevant again in that same way. And like, you cannot count on politicians being the thing that changes people's politics. We need to move away from thinking that like the best way to organize the working class is finding like a good candidate and like electing him to Congress. That is a very small aspect. And I think like DSA puts all of their eggs in that one basket. Like, drop your fucking clipboards, drop the phones, and get into a fucking tent when the encampments start. You know what I mean? Like, DSA needs to be there learning from those mass movements as they're happening, and like not leading them per se, but like working with the organizers to help facilitate it, and leveraging their membership and the numbers that they have to help defend these encampments. Like, all that stuff is really important. And they just like weren't there. They just like didn't do anything. They need to make a heel turn on that. And you need to be repairing the harm that's been done between these on the ground organizations, because right now there's just like a massive distrust of DSA. And if you're affirming the right for an ethno state to exist, then yeah, this is a fucking problem. This goes against the American, like, or the DSA's like membership. Like, the DSA's membership has voted many times on the organization's policy, and they're not following it. Like, why, they're the ones that are being disorganized. And let me tell you something, it's for an uglier reason than the fucking Within Our Lifetimes people, man. It's because they have like aspirations of political success, and you know, they're trying to move up in the world. Like, AOC is really stepping into her role as the approved dissenter in the Democratic National Convention and the DNC and the Democratic Party, everything. We owe it to AOC, we owe it to the movement to stop that from happening. That's a bad thing for leftism. If AOC becomes the fucking the approved dissenter, that person's always been in office, always, and they've always been ineffective. A revolutionary isn't really going to get elected into Congress. That tells us the limits of what the fucking democratic, like, what electoral politics can give us. We shouldn't be looking to electoral politics for revolutionary like potential. In my opinion, we should be looking to the encampments. We should be looking to mass movements on the streets. That's how people change, is by seeing mass movement in the streets, seeing like real shit happen. Politics happens in the streets. It happens in these encampments. That's where this shit happens.